art? Is it merely an expression of extraordinary emotion, a purposeful reflection of creativity, imagination, and passion, inducing an experience like no other? Does it transcend the borders of human knowledge? This is Animo, CPAR.
Well, that certainly was something. Could we consider that intro as good art or bad art? Is this good art? Or is this good art? Welcome to another episode of Animo CPAR. And have y'all ever had an encounter with confusing art, such as these, which just make you think and struggle when categorizing whether they're good or bad art pieces? Well, fear not, because in today's video, we will be explaining and demonstrating Feldman's method of art criticism, which is divided into 4 integral segments. Number 1, description. Number 2, analysis. And number 3, interpretation. And lastly, we have judgment. Description simply describes what is immediately apparent in the work. Analysis takes a deeper dive into the piece's elements, while interpretation attempts to decipher and debunk why certain elements were used in its context in the life of the artist. Lastly, judgment, where we would reach a final verdict, asking the question, did the artwork succeed?
Hello there! Let's refer to this oil painting titled Madonna of the Slums from 1950 by Vicente Manansala, a Filipino abstract artist. At first glance, wow, this painting does seem interesting. When we first look at the artwork, we see a woman carrying a child. This woman, as the title suggests, is a depiction of the Virgin Mary and the child baby Jesus. If we look behind them, we see that they are situated in the slums of urban poor setting, and the sky is dark and gloomy. There are clothes hung in between houses, the floor seeming to be wet with some sort of dirty water, and houses closely compact. The painter mostly used dull and warm colors for his artwork. A lot of secondary colors used aside from the color of the sky. He used the colors green, blue, brown, white, and yellow. However, he mostly utilized a brown tone and a dark shade. More so, the artist took advantage of cubism and abstract styles, though it is somehow different from classical cubism as he uses a different style called transparent cubism. We can see that the form of the structures really stands out, like the roof of the houses, because they are drawn using different geometrical shapes and have facets. There is depth and perspective. The artwork also has a rough texture and has good spacing. From our eyes, we see it well balanced, and every blank space in the canvas was filled adequately. We can also observe that the mother and the child are positioned in the middle and have lighter values and hues than the background, giving us a sense of contrast and accentuating their presence. The genre of this art is somewhat impressionist and expressivism, as it shows us a depiction of life outside. Based solely on the outside appearance, the painting is not unpleasant to look at. Now, let us have Paul with the analysis.
Now that we have described the artistic properties that this piece possesses, what do they all culminate to? Firstly, where do your eyes wander? Are we fixated in the middle? Well, obviously, Madonna and the child are the biggest elements at the center of the painting, clearly indicating that they are the stars in this painting. Aside from that, our eye catches the light brown color, illustrating the Filipino skin of Madonna and the child, making it the first attraction. Then it gets darker outward to the backside of the houses. Do you see the vulnerability and awareness on the woman's face as her child hugs her in a protective gesture? The artist's choice of color of brown tones, primarily earth colors, that are being shaded to appear darker depicts a dirty and gloomy atmosphere, bringing out the grimy houses, low-quality materials, and a shabby environment that looks like it is unsafe to live in. See how the gray shades on the mother's skin depict dirt, emphasizing that they live in a poverty-stricken area and are forced to live in a messy place. Now let's observe the painting style. We can see that the paint's applied thinly. It is geometrically drawn, mainly of triangles and squares, of the roofs and houses, and circles to draw this subject. This gives a sense of perspective and highlights how crowded the slums are. This is a great technique used by Manansala. Despite the use of different colors, the artist successfully portrayed a hazy atmosphere and mood, well composed with a well-organized foreground and background, with the help of color and light. Because of the well-placed and designed elements, this piece is a spectacle to analyze. Now then, let's move on to everyone's favorite segment, Paul of Facts. Did you know that there are several variations of Madonna which are similar to this one? But in comparison, their commonality is how they portray the beauty of the human body. During the Renaissance, human art was the norm, showing the naturalistic nature of the human body, capturing the right physical figure, reflecting its environment. The realistic body image of the mother and the child with a dirty appearance shows a principle of their identity, living in an environment known as, in Filipino terms, calle or the slums. By looking at it, you get to feel the experience of living in the streets, how they live their life with limited resources, and the existence of fear and vulnerability.
Wow, that segment was truly full of facts. Let's move on to interpretation. This art piece is not an abstract, but rather a representational artwork that aims to represent actual objects or subjects from reality, making it simple to understand and interpret. Looking at this artwork and seeing how Madonna, the mother, is carrying her child in the slums, I'd say that it implies a mother would never abandon and would always take care of her child, regardless of how difficult life may be. It shows us the unconditional love of a mother for her child. This made the Animo CPAR team feel warmth and appreciation. It also gives us a sense of hope and encouragement to keep going. And I suppose that's how most people would feel as well upon seeing this work of art. But what exactly is its deeper meaning? Manansala's piece, Madonna of the Slums, shows a mother and a child who are forced to live in poverty in a slum. Yes, we know that. It holds simplicity, yet it's very expressive, emphasizing their vulnerability due to the lack of security and social infrastructure that portrays fear, injustice, and insecurity, making the mood dark. This work wants to recognize those that live under these conditions. The fact that they both have their heads turned indicates that they were thinking of what to eat, where to go, or what to do next, as it captures the prevailing anxiety and uncertainty that they face. The poor quality of the house, the clothing hung outside since there isn't sufficient place to hang them, the mother embracing her child, the dark alley, the slum, and every other detail just implies the reality of those who live in poverty. Perhaps the artist's aim was to further enrich his art by using his depictions of contemporary Filipino life to address topics of intimacy, poverty, and culture in his work. Talk about art and its functionality. Seeing how Manansala created this art piece as a way to show what Filipinos go through while living in the slums enlightens and reminds us to be grateful for what we have, as not all people have the privilege as we do. People in the slums go through a lot each day just for them to be able to eat a meal that isn't even filling their stomachs. Some walk the streets endlessly, while some engage in labor, going through the rubbish in hopes that they will find something to eat, while some even engage in illegal acts to survive. In relation to the author, it was said that Vicente had an open heart and was generous to those indigent. He helped a lot of kids in Pampanga, his hometown, which most likely inspired him greatly to make this piece.
Wow, we're already at the last step. Let us think about this in another perspective. We believe that there definitely was a concrete goal of the artist, which is to portray what the lives of most Filipinos were like after World War II. It expresses the sentiment that there are no winners in war. It only causes suffering for everyone. Although, let us be more clear. Is it respectful? Is it original? Well, it certainly is. To elaborate more, it is an interesting, imaginative, and creative idea to depict the situation the Philippines was in during the 1950s by putting a symbolism of the mothers with the anxiety of the unseen future for their children. Furthermore, based on what we see, is there any element that makes it bad art? Inconsistent strokes? Color palette? Or is it intentional? The color palette use seems dark, which is in tune with the slow and sad atmosphere being portrayed in the painting. The mix of the colors with the facial features, output of the houses, skies, and even the body language of the mother and child made us feel a glimmer of what the reality of life was like. With all that being said, we find this artwork particularly unique, with its storytelling of history along with deep messages and genuine expression. For the Animo CPAR team, this piece is without a doubt good art. For it succeed. Oh my god, wait. Let me record that. for it succeeded in its goal, which lifts others up by spreading knowledge, birthing compassion, and it is also inspiring. It made us feel something, as enumerated by our friend Kurt. Now, that painting was an experience like no other. The destination of hours and days of work, of passion. This is good art.